Okay, so when Maria told me that we're going to have the theme of the motor of the world, it really ignited an idea in my head of how am I going to talk about the motor of the world? What is the motor of the world? I come from business. I ran a software company in the Silicon Valley for many years, and before that I managed a big software company. So I was the motor of the world, right? So I wanted to dive into the concept of the motor. What is the motor? What fuels the motor? So if you think about the motor of the world, a real motor, the question I want to focus on today is the motor, but not only that, what fuels the motor of the world? What is the fuel, the energy that is behind the motor of the world? So when we think about the motor of the world, when we think about what do we mean when we talk about what drives everything around you, everything that Maria talked about, and everything Yaron talked about, but what drives everything that you see around you? We think about the abundance that we all live by. What creates that? We think about production. We think about business, right? This is what we think when we say the motor. We think about medicine. We think about technology. That is what we mean when we say the motor of the world, right? This is what we see in our eyes. You go out, you see the shops, you see the technology, you see the cars, you see the satellites being, shot to space. We think Elon Musk is the motor of the world. But what drives it? What is the thing we cannot see that is the fuel that drives all of this? Of course, if you ask all of the economists who are analyzing the market for you, we know. We know what drives everything. Look at what happened. Here's the proof. If some of you here are, fans of Austrian economics, of course, they got a lot of things right. Here's the proof. Something happened here. It was freedom, individual rights, and look what happened to GDP. That's how we think about it. We think about the markets. If you open the markets, if you let people trade, if you let open borders, global trade, this is how the motor of the world is running. This is the explanation we get for what is the motor of the world, and this is what we need in order to make it run. Is it true? Well, Yaron gave you the explanation of the connection between this, liberty, and us as individuals and our happiness. I want to go a little deeper in order to understand what is the real fuel that drives the motor of the world. And it takes a little bit of an abstraction because you cannot see it, but it's evident. So ask yourself, if this is the motor of the world, what fuels it? What is the energy that it's running on? Any ideas? Greed. What else? Reason? Good. Self-interest. Ideas. Volition. Innovation. Where is innovation coming from? Freedom? Purpose of whom? You. So let me show you what it looks like. Where's the essence of the fuel that runs the world? It looks like that. This is how it looks like. This is the fuel that runs the motor of the world. This is what you do. You think, you integrate, you have a vision of, wait a second, maybe I can do it better. Let me calculate this again. Can I create a new product that solves this problem? Can I make money? What do I need to do in order to make it all happen? Do I need to hire people? How much will I pay them? This is what it looks like. You can't see it. It's right in here. And that's the fuel, that's the energy. And that's what we don't appreciate, because we cannot see it. So if you think why we, as people who are interested in philosophy, specifically objectivism, in a way are smarter than other people, is because we see deeper. Other people, especially the people who are on the left side of the political map, who are, just materialists. If I cannot see it, it doesn't exist. All they see is force, all they see is muscle. You read Marx, that's what you get. They can't see what's really going on. This is what's going on. They can't see the innovator. They can't see the amount of work that is happening inside your brain to do everything that is required to make everything possible. Now, how does that look like? I want to start with a couple of quotes by Ayn Rand, because she's the first philosopher, a true innovator, to understand the role of the mind as the motor of the world. What do you think is the theme of Atlas Shrugged? Is it railroads? No, the theme of Atlas Shrugged is the role of the mind as the motor of the world. And what happens when you take the mind out and how the engine stops working. She says, whether it's a symphony or a coal mine, all work is an act of creating, comes from the same source, from an inviolate capacity to see through one's own eyes, which means the capacity to perform a rational identification, which means the capacity to see and connect and to make what had not been seen connected and made before. That is what we do as humans. That is our special power that creates everything you see around you. It starts from seeing the bottle here. No other animal, no other creature can see a bottle here. It's not the same color, it's not the same shape. We see the function. You cannot explain this to a dog. But a child, as they're very young, will not see the bottle. But after they understand, wait a second, this is the same as this because it does the same thing, I get it. Now they give a name to it. It's called a concept. We call it a bottle. And now we have all the bottles in the world in our head. Doesn't matter if they're plastic or they're glass, they're big or they're small. If you want to understand how that mind works, Ayn Rand will teach you. It continues with you acting in the world and seeing how things act. If I kick a ball, what happens? It rolls. If I kick a book, it doesn't do this. So this baby is in the process of doing what we do as humans, which is to understand cause and effect, the nature of things. So that kid is conceptualizing, but also kicking the ball over and over again to see what happens to it. That's what we do as adults in a much higher level. What happens if I change the strategy of the company from this to that? It's the same thing. It continues, and this is how you see it with the innovator, with the people who take their ideas, the same as kicking the ball, into a product. They make something new that was never made before. And that's what you do. And that's the sacred thing that defines us as human. And this is why we need liberty, to protect this beautiful aspect of human beings that create through their own mind. I want to read you another quote from Atlas Shrugged. Ayn Rand said, "Man's mind is the root of all the goods produced and of all the wealth that has ever existed on earth." Think about what that means. And this is how you can start to understand Rand's focus on reason. Wealth is the product of men's capacity to think. Now let's talk about the attacks. And Yaron talks a lot about that. We all, again, see the attacks in reality, right? All the communists and socialists and people want to regulate, and we think that's the problem. Yeah, that's a problem. Of course it's a problem. But what is the nature of the attack? Again, we have to go deeper. By the way, all of the images that you see, I created with ChatGPT AI, another idea that somebody came with. So I prompt this like attack on capitalism, and this is what AI put back. I hope it makes the point. Let's hear.
If you've been successful, you didn't get there on your own. You didn't get there on your own. I'm always struck by people who think, well, it must be because I was just so smart. There are a lot of smart people out there. It must be because I worked harder than everybody else. Let me tell you something. There are a whole bunch of hard-working people out there. If you were successful, somebody along the line gave you some help. There was a great teacher somewhere in your life. Somebody helped to create this unbelievable American system that we had that allowed you to thrive. Somebody invested in roads and bridges. If you got a business, you didn't build that.
You didn't build it.
Somebody else made that happen.
What is President Obama trying to tell you? You did not build it. You cannot do it on your own. It's not you, it's us. You are worth nothing. Your teacher is everything. The road that we built for you. Whoever built the system, not you, not your mind. You did not build it. This is the most vicious attack on the fuel that runs the world. This is trying to corrupt the fuel in your own mind to tell you, if you're a kid and you're listening to President Obama, don't even try. You did not build it. And you will not build it because you is nothing. You cannot think. We can think. If you think about the essence of the attack here, it's the attack on individualism. It's the attack of you as a sovereign entity who can do and decide who they are and what they want to be and what they want to build. And that's what we're teaching our kids. We're putting them in public schools, all sitting in the same chair, learning the same exact things, because who cares about you? Who cares if you're a boy that is interested in trains, or a girl that is interested in bridges, or a boy that wants to build rockets that go to the moon? We don't care. So if you want to really understand the depth of the attack of killing the potential of humans, go to President Obama. Go to Hillary Clinton. This is one of the most vicious books you've ever read. It takes a village. It doesn't take a human being. It doesn't take an individual. It takes a village. If there's no village, there's nothing. This is communist in the same exact way. Now, think about it. Those are our leaders. And that's the first thing she puts on our book. We cannot live for ourselves alone. Our lives are connected by 1,000 invisible threads. And along these sympathetic fibers, our actions run as causes and return to us as results. This is the quote she puts in the beginning of the book. And then the book is a vicious, vicious attack on kids, telling them, it's not about you. It's not what you want. It's what we all do together. It's the threads that go between us. there are spider webs that go between you and you and you and you and you, and the spider web is what runs everything. It's not the individual.
How do you build
Let
a
me,
benchmark
before,
for what is
you know
true?
what, let me, before I want to present to you two very recent figures that are in the news. Lex Friedman, who is one of the best interviewers we have right now, and Sam Altman, who is the CEO of OpenAI or ChatGPT, talking about what is true. Because ChatGPT needs to answer questions. How do we know what is true? That is another vicious attack on the mind, coming from skepticism. Listen to what Sam Altman is responding to the question, what is true? How do we know if something is true? So this is Lex Friedman asking Sam Altman what is true. I'm sorry I don't have Spanish captions, but try to listen.
How do you build a benchmark for what is true? What is truth, Sam Altman?
Like math is true, and the origin of COVID is not agreed upon as ground truth.
Those are the two things.
And then there's stuff that's like certainly not true. But between that first and second milestone, there's a lot of disagreement.
What do you look for? Where can not even just now, but in the future, where can we as a human civilization look to for truth?
What do you know is true? What are you absolutely certain is true?
Look how...
I have generally
Bewildered he is.
epistemic humility about everything, and am freaked out by how little I know and understand about the world. So that even that question is terrifying to me. There's a bucket of things that have a high degree of truthiness, which is where you would put math, a lot of math.
Yeah. Can't be certain, but it's good enough for like this conversation.
Can't be
math
certain,
is true.
but it's good enough.
Yeah,
Maybe math.
I mean, some
maybe.
quite a bit of physics. There's historical facts.
That's it. So you got two of the smartest people in the Silicon Valley talking about what truth is. And one is asking the other, what do you know is true? And said, what do you know is true? Maybe math, maybe a little bit of physics, maybe some historic, the war started in 1917. Yeah, that's true. Where do you think all of this is coming from? And those are people that use truth all the time. Am I here? Am I speaking to you? Yes? Is it true? How do you know? Maybe you're dreaming right now, hallucinating, right? You have eyes, but can you trust your eyes? What about blind people? So before we giggle, we need to understand that this attack is a vicious attack on individuals. Because it tells them, you cannot know. It's not that it takes a village. Even if you think you can know as an individual, you can't. That's what skepticism will do to you. What do you think is the future of ChatGPT? Is anyone investing in OpenAI? I hope you don't. I don't know that you can, but even if you could. It's going nowhere. It's an amazing neural network that does amazing things. If you want to ask me why it's doing it, I can explain to you why it's doing what it's doing. But as far as the content, don't expect much. Because the head of OpenAI is telling you that nothing is true. Maybe 2 and 2 is 4. Who knows? Could be 5 sometimes. So in order to understand the nature of this attack, you have to go into philosophy. You really have to go deeper. To understand sense perception. Somebody said, I have eyes, right? Ask some philosophers. They will disagree with you. They think that the whole process of seeing those things is invalid. And then turning those sensations from the object to your senses to the conception is another process. You can make a lot of errors there. Can you make a mistake here? If you read Ayn Rand, no, you cannot. You cannot make a mistake in this one. You can only make a mistake here. But again, ask some philosophers and they will really confuse the heck out of you. Is this true? What? Is the straw bent or split in the middle? Can we trust our eyes? What are we seeing? A broken straw. Why? So let me give you just an idea of what it means to dive into understanding the vicious attacks and how to respond. What your senses are giving you here is the whole truth and nothing but the truth. It shows you that light travels through water slower than it travels through air. And because of that, the angle of the light that comes out of the water and hits your eyes is in a different angle than the light that goes through the air. This is why you see the straw in a different angle than you see the straw from the water than what you see the straw in the air. This is why it looks like that. So your senses are telling you everything that is happening, including the speed of light and how it slows down if it goes through water. So in order for you to be able to understand how complex the attacks are, you cannot giggle. You need to take it seriously. And that's what we do. We take it very seriously because our enemies are smart. And they go all the way to Sam Altman, a smart guy, and teach him that you cannot know anything. How did they do that? What is the number you see here? 29. Somebody see something else? I'm sure somebody else sees something else. Can we trust our eyes? Yes, of course. If your eyes are a different nature that cannot see red, you will see a different number. It gives you the whole truth about the relationship between the light and your retina. But you need to be able to argue with the people who will tell you that this is a proof that reality is subjective, that your mind is subjective. And the reason why Ayn Rand called her philosophy objectivism is because of this. Because she believes that reality is objective and your mind is objective. And reason is the way you know the world. Reason. And philosophers throughout the centuries will find another wrong argument and another wrong argument to convince you that you cannot know. You cannot trust your senses, your concepts, or your knowledge. And reason does not exist. This is why we need the we. So if you read Anthem, and if you didn't, I really recommend you do. It's a short book. The whole idea is to eradicate the I. It's a world where the I stops existing. If you want to understand what I've started to talk about, she puts it in a book called Introduction to Objectivist Epistemology, where she explains everything about what it means to understand the world, to form concepts, and to validate your concepts objectively, so you can call it truth. I am here speaking to you. It's true. And if you think I don't, you're wrong. So why when we go to physics and math classes and I get 2 and 2 is 5, I get a big X, and every time everybody's okay with it. But if you go to the humanities, who knows? Read Dr. Leonard Peikoff's Introduction to Objectivist Epistemology. Read chapter 4 on objectivity to understand what objectivity means. That's how you really arm yourself with the right ammunition to fight the evil forces. Ask yourself, do I understand this truly? Because your enemies understand this wrongly at that level. There's another book that I recommend by Dr. Harry Binswanger called How We Know. Not easy books to read. If you want to watch YouTube, I recommend from 2014 a series of lectures called Thinking Objectively by Dr. Greg Salmieri. And what he says there is beautiful. Knowledge is work. If you want to know something, you need to work to know it. It does not just come to you. Even the baby who's kicking the ball around the room is working. is integrating. It's like, what's happening? I don't know if you saw the baby that he kicked the ball, and the ball flew, and then he kicked the air again. Nothing happened. It's like, okay, if I kick the air, nothing happens. But the ball, I need to go to the ball again. Right? That's work. So you need work to discover new knowledge, he says. You need work to learn new knowledge. You even need work to maintain your knowledge. So if you want to understand those things, and this is why you will see the Ayn Rand Institute focus so much on the deepest courses we can give you, and a lot of young people here are in the process of doing that. We are arming the next generation of thinkers. They are the soldiers of the battle of ideas. They will win the world. If you want to see the heaven that we all know can exist here, right? And we'll see later on with President Millet if that's a real step towards that, right? You need to appreciate that there's a division of labor. I don't know what you do for a living, but if you're not an intellectual, what I think you should think about is, how can I support someone who can take this on as their job? And that's what we're growing in the Ayn Rand Institute. We used to have 2 junior fellows a year. Now we have over 20. We used to have 10 people a year studying this with our courses. Now we have 150. Imagine what will happen if we had 1,500 people a year going into the market, armed with that level of ideas. Anyone here heard about Alex Epstein? Yeah, fighting for energy. He's the product of this process. And there are so many others. We need more Yaron Brooks. We need more Onkar Gates. We need more Greg Salmieri. We need more Alex Epstein, who will take those ideas into the culture and fight at the deepest level. I don't know if you saw, but we invited Jordan Peterson back in 2018, and he's on stage talking to one of our philosophers, Greg Salmieri, and it's like, Jordan Peterson doesn't make any sense. He speaks so well, he dresses so well, but Greg Salmieri is eating him for lunch. He got Jordan Peterson to say that there's no difference between a chair and a beanbag. This is how corrupt his epistemology is. We need people to be able to do that at that level. Let me read you one more quote. Ayn Rand says, I am not primarily an advocate of capitalism, but of egoism. And I'm not primarily an advocate of egoism, but of reason. If one recognizes the supremacy of reason and applies it consistently, all rest follows. This, the supremacy of reason, was, is, and will be the primary concern of my work and the essence of objectivism. Reason, the fuel that runs the world. So I want to finish with one thought, which is about you. What does it mean to you? What does it mean to your life? If you understand, as Yaron said, that the whole philosophy, whole of morality, and politics, and everything else is for one purpose, for you to live the best life that you can. What does that mean? Philosophy is for you, not for Argentina. So I want to leave you with one thought, which is, what is your vision? What do you want to create in this world before you die? I don't know if you believe in the afterworld. It doesn't exist, as far as I can say. Not as far. I know it doesn't exist. You're hallucinating if you think something exists after you die. Nothing exists. You stop to exist. So you count the days between now and the day you die, and that's all you got. What are you doing with it? And if you read The Fountainhead, she gives you the best moral ideal of how to think about the purpose of your life, the central purpose of your life, which is your work, your creativity, your self-expression. I love what I do. I wake up every day. I don't care if I slept 3 hours or 2 hours yesterday, which I did. I love what I do. I jump out of bed thinking, how can I do it better? Did you find that thing that you want to do? If you didn't, forget about Argentina. Create a vision for your life. I always ask the people in my, I'm running a happiness team workshop, what is your architecture? Because Howard Work was an architect. He found his central purpose, and he was non-compromising about it. What is yours? What are you willing to spend your life on? Your life, because that's what you're going to do. Spend your life, the only thing that you have, on that thing. Have you found something important enough to do this? So, you know, one of the best quotes, again, from the fountainhead, which I will end with, is I think that quote for me, it was life-changing. After I read that book, everything changed for me. And I did it in a late phase of my life. I was 40, which was 12, 13 years ago. When I read this book, everything changed because I realized what she's saying. She's saying, throughout the centuries, there were men who took first steps down new roads armed with nothing but their own vision. Their goals differed, but they all had this in common, that the step was the first, the road was new, the vision unborrowed. So what is your vision? Thank you very much. Okay, so before I leave the stage, I want to read to you a statement that is very important for me because later on in the day, we're going to have President Milei join us, which is a great honor. But I want to read something which is very important for us to say for the context of, in the context of this conference. You know, our mission in the Ayn Rand Institute is educational in nature. We help people discover and understand Rand's philosophy of reason, individualism, egoism, and capitalism. She called her philosophy objectivism, or informally, a philosophy for living on earth. It's a system of ideas for guiding each of us in achieving our own happiness, and it has ignited a global intellectual movement. This year's Ayn Rand Con was scheduled long before Javier Milei ran for office and was elected. His unexpected win made headlines around the world. Suddenly, Argentina was in the spotlight. After decades of left-wing governments, as the Financial Times of London put it, quote, libertarianism is having a moment with Argentina's Milei, end of quote. Well, it's a phenomenon well worth thinking about. Our partner, Maria Marti, invited President Milei to this conference, given that President Milei was a professor and an economist. We hope to arrange a conversation about ideas and the prospect for economic reform and for the freedom in Argentina with Yaron Brook, the chairman of the Institute. So because Yaron is an expert on political economical issues, we thought it would be a great conversation. President Milei preferred to do it as an interview in Spanish with Maria, and this is what we're going to do. This is what we have for you later today. A word on how the interview relates to the conference. I see the interview as an exception to the conference theme of exploring Ayn Rand's philosophy. The interview's goal is not to discuss Rand's work or ideas, but instead to shed some light on a major political development or phenomenon that has drawn global attention to Argentina, a country bankrupt by collectivist socialist ideas and policies. President Milei has talked about political issues that are important, and it's important to get it right for building a free society. The interview is an opportunity to hear from him directly what animates his agenda, unfiltered by left-wing or right-wing media bias. You will hear it from him, and we're going to be your source. Since many of you here are new to Rand's ideas, I want to be clear about where we are at the Ayn Rand Institute stand. We're obviously not in agreement with President Milei on many fundamental issues, and as you learned during the conference. For example, objectivism is a philosophy of reason, opposed to all forms of faith. Rand advocated an individualist morality, which she called rational egoism. Rand rejects anarchism of any kind. To protect freedom, she argued, it's essential to have a government responsible for the protection of individual rights, including property rights. Rand upheld a woman's right to abortion as sacrosanct. These are just some of the areas of profound disagreement between us and some of the topics we will be discussing in the conference. I love to see Argentina's economy thrive, unburdened by crushing inflation. And I'd love to see Argentina become a free country. But this means full freedom for every individual in every aspect of his or her life. As you will learn about Ayn Rand's ideas during this conference, I encourage you to pay close attention to what a full and logically consistent case for individualism and freedom would look like and why. I hope Maria's interview with President Milei will shed some light not just on the prospects of reform in Argentina, but also on what questions advocates of individualism and freedom must successfully answer. Rand's ideas have inspired me. They've changed the way I think, I know, and how I lead my life and the work that I've chosen to do. Every day, Rand's books and ideas ignite individuals all around the world, and I hope this conference will be a powerful catalyst for your journey of exploring Rand's philosophy. And so if you want to learn more about Rand's ideas in the most deep way, I again encourage you to learn about the Ayn Rand University. You can take it online. You can talk to Maria. You can talk to myself on how to take those courses, including in Spanish. And I really hope you enjoy this conference. Thank you very much.